Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Many Lens, back again with another video. This camera is good. The camera that I'm using right now is really good. I know we all know that in 2024, from 2022, if not from 2020, no camera manufacturer really made a bad camera. To say the truth, because all the camera that came out from that time, they had amazing specs. Most of them had like 14 stop of dynamic range, so you can literally see in the shadow at ISO 2000 they all are pretty much perfect. There is no grain, so forth and so on. And that's one of the reasons why, for example, I really applaud Fuji a lot, because I think as a brand they have caught up pretty significantly with a lot of the camera manufacturers. So they've marked really like a turning point when they released like their XT 10, 20, 30. They haven't released the 40, and then the 50 series, which I am actually using right now to record this video. I will obviously put some inserts of some b-rolls of what the camera looks like, how it feels in my hand. But I want to talk about not really want to call it like a pure review of the camera, because I've used so many Fujis now that I don't even know if I really have to review this camera. I would just have to say that if you're looking for a camera to like get into like the Fuji system, this one is for you, because it's an amazing photo camera with a 40 megapixel that it has, and it's an amazing video camera with the video spec that it have. It's pretty much on par, let's say, with the Fuji XT5. It's a mini version of an XT5. For those who use Fuji, they know that those are like the mini version. I have like an XT2 with me here, so it's pretty much like, this is pretty much the form factor of the camera as well. It's a little bit smaller. Kind of uses the same battery as the XT2. I have the XT2, which is my camera of like choice at the moment, which I'm planning to upgrade. So I was looking at the market. I was looking at a lot of cameras to use to actually upgrade to. One camera that I had in mind and that I really put my mind into was the Fuji XS20, because I've also used that camera. But that this 40 megapixel sensor that they've put in this XT50 are really a thing of a beauty. The dynamic range in them is just amazing. That's one thing that I'm counting on a lot, and it gives you that modern feel. I don't know if, for those who do photography, if you can really feel the difference between like how a picture look from like the yesteryear and then a picture looks like now. There is that tonal difference that makes a picture a little bit more like modern compared to like an older photo. So I generally see that a lot, especially when I take a photo with my 800D, because with that camera I have to always overexpose a tiny bit to be able to get like a sharp photo, or I have to stop down my lens a little bit to get a photo that I'm really pleased with, which was not the case with this XT50. This is a thing of a beauty, I have to say. This camera, like, should I say, I pretty much kind of underestimated it. I was pretty much very much unimpressed seeing it. Using it is something else. So there are some cons that I don't like. I understand the price point of the camera and the target market as well. So it has all of the Fuji sources, all of the new Fuji simulation, and it has that dial. So this dial that we have here on the XT2, on the XT series, like from the 1 to the 5, which is reserved to the ISO, is actually mapped for the Fuji simulation, and then you have a custom dial as well, which I don't really know why they've done that. I think I've seen the older ones, and I think they had I don't know what they had on there, but it was not this Fuji simulation. But because you can map the Fuji simulation to another button, so that kind of counterintuitive for me, which is I think a little bit weird about it, because I believe that it could have been used for something better or something different. But is it a one-handed operation like this one Fuji? Because generally my Fuji, for me, what matters the most with Fuji is that am I able to use it with one hand? So I'm a little bit able to use it with one hand, so I'm gonna pretty much start with the cons with the camera. It's small in size, So I have a big hand. That's not the camera fault. So I can always get like an extra grip or something like that. It is small in size, but it's not too bad in terms of size per se. It's still usable. It's good because it's small, because you can take it anywhere. So that the size is a con and a pro for some people. For me, it is pretty much like a pro at this time, because I used it outside as well, and it doesn't really feel like you are having a camera with you. So it feels inconspicuous, it's very discreet, and people feel like you're not really shooting them. So especially for street photography or stuff like that, this is a very good camera. It has 40 megapixel, I will repeat that, and it is a thing of a beauty. That 40 megapixel, I used it on the X100VI. I didn't like it much, maybe because of the fixed lens that the camera has, but because this one is an interchangeable camera, it has like a lot of cons. Just the fact that this is an interchangeable camera, you should probably consider this camera instead of the X100VI. It has the pop-up flash, so which is good, but I've been using this Ulanzi external flash. I'm gonna do a review about this camera, this tiny flash as well soon. So if you guys are in the market for like a flash on top of your camera, this probably is something that you should consider. And it has quite a lot of things that Fujis are really well known for. And one of the biggest thing about this camera that I kind of like is just the size. The size makes it really discreet, which is something that I appreciate a lot. And the screen quality is really good compared to this one. You can feel the newness of this, and that's something very important. You can definitely feel how new that screen quality is. It's really amazing. And it also has a threaded shutter button, so you can always like customize your shutter button to like something like this, like I've done with my XT2, and probably gonna be doing with some of my newer Fuji that I'm gonna get. So this really puts me kind of in a conundrum in terms of which camera should I get, because it doesn't have this two SD card. It uses one SD card, and it uses the older Fuji battery, which are very notorious for being very bad. So I have a copy of one here. So I will always carry like 2 or 3 batteries with this camera, because yeah, one wouldn't really be enough to do pretty much anything that you want to do. But it has Type-C, it charges rather fast, and you can still use it while you are charging, which is also good compared to this one, which I can't use while I am charging. And I mean, it's a camera at the end of the day. I don't generally like to put too many bad words into like a camera, but this camera is actually very good. Which I've said is something that I was very much surprised to see, because this is not a camera that I expected to be so good for such a small camera. For the size, it is a mammoth of a camera. So if you haven't used it, you will be surprised. And recently I was doing a show, I was shooting an event where I was using the FX30, and I fell in love with the image of the FX30, not necessarily the camera itself and the form factor. I've never really been a Sony guy. And I was like, I need to compare the F-Log2 to like an FX30 quality. So I'll put 2 videos in one from the Fuji and another one from the one from like the Sony, and you guys will be able to like download them. For those who will download them, you will grade them, and you see how these images look. But there is not much difference. I mean, the dynamic range are pretty similar, and I've never shot this camera actually in very low light, but I mean, I don't shoot a lot in low lights. I always have like controlled environments and stuff like that. So that is something that also you can probably test for yourself. There is a lot of grain, so I would shoot this camera comfortably until like maybe ISO 6000, and that's really good. I can't shoot any of my Canon, the Canon that I have 800D to ISO like 800, because I already feel like the image becomes a little bit grainy. F-Log2 base ISO is 1000, so you can already see for yourself. This camera, I comfortably shoot it at ISO 2000 for photos especially, and I don't see a lot of grain in that. I think Fuji has really done something amazing with the cameras when it comes to dynamic range, especially in terms of the highlight roll-off. That is something that I found very nice. Pretty much the same thing with the Sony, because I use those 2 cameras and they really feel good. So that's pretty much what I can say about this camera, should you get one? Yes, definitely. But I don't think if you really want, if you're a professional, this should be your first camera. This probably will be your second camera. For YouTube, it's a bit tricky because it doesn't have, as I said, a flip out screen. So for example, right now, last time I was using the Fuji app. So right now I'm just using the monitor, my external monitor here, and I'm able to frame myself, but I have to have a long cable. The HDMI is a micro HDMI, which is very prone to break, so you might have to cage the camera, which defeats the purpose. That's one of the reasons why I've been considering the XH2, because of just that, or the XS20, so, or the XH2. Is it the XH2? Yeah, XH2 or 2S. Probably the 2 is probably going to be suited for me. So those are some of the things that you might need to consider when you want to get this camera. But it is overall a very good camera. That 40 megapixel sensor is probably the star of the show, because it's the same sensor you find in the XH2 and the XT5. So you only have 3 cameras. Oh, and as well as the X100VI. Didn't like it much on the X100VI because I just feel like compared to this camera, I've used this camera really a lot, extensively. I've used it on jobs, as I've said. I've used it on photo shoots. I've used it just for fun. I've used it to do street photography, and I enjoy that. I've used it extensively to be able to give this opinion. As I said, I don't want it to be a review, so you'll see inserts of you'll see inserts of the video of what the camera looks like, but it's not really what you should prioritize. Just want to see how long this video is going on so that it's not too long. So it's about 12 minutes. I really don't know how long, because there are so many things that this XT5 takes from the X100, the XT series. So in terms of what it looks like at the back, it is pretty much the same camera minus the D-pad. So they removed the D-pad, they have the joystick, which I like, and 2 more buttons, a menu button, OK button, display button. But pretty much some of the buttons here on top looks pretty much the same. You also have a function button on the top that pretty much does the same thing. You have a toggle for auto. This is one of the only Fuji camera that has an auto toggle that you just click and everything is auto, because it's targeted to for newbies and people that just want to get into. But this is a very good camera if you really just want to step up a little bit and be that family member who takes photos at weddings and stuff and start building his career, so forth and so on. That's pretty much how I started mine, because it was friends, and then I started moving on slowly but surely. So Fuji does know how to make a camera, and this camera just proof of it as well. And I am just going to tell people, if you really want a camera and you're considering Fuji, you shouldn't hold back. You should get yourself one, because you have all the new flavors. You can literally do a step up from like small level to like a bigger one, and this is something that you won't regret. All right, so this is pretty much it about this camera. As I say, it's not a typical review because I've used this camera extensively. I'm just giving you what I think about it. It's pretty much my opinion about it, and I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace out.